Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brandon and you are watching M.O.N.Comics. Thank you for once again clicking on my video to check out what I'm up to this week. As you can see, I'm not in my usual filming location in my office. I'm outside, and there's a couple reasons for that. One, I don't have any books to show. Well, I do, but I'm saving them for a different show. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is it's a beautiful summer night in upstate New York. The west is behind me, the sunset's over there, and I'm trying to really enjoy, not take them for granted, because in a few months the deck I'm sitting on will be covered in 2 to 3 feet of snow. So really trying to soak it up. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I claim that. You might as well see that I am in fact in the woods on a small pond with a couple neighbors. So I thought, why not do a video outside? So if I'm not showing comic books, what am I talking about this week? Well, if you click on any YouTube channel that talks about comic books, there's a high chance you like to learn about stuff, whether it's artists of comic books, writers, lore, history, modern comic books coming out. You like to learn. I also like to learn about comics, but I don't have the time to watch every YouTube video about every comic channel out there. So I was starting to get, really like depressed about like not only not supporting friends' channels, but just not having the time to soak it all in, to really like plug in like Neo to the Matrix and learn everything. So I started searching for comic book podcasts. So I thought maybe I'd share my 5 favorite comic book podcasts with you guys. I've already done the groundwork. You can just click on them and I'll tell you what I was really looking for in a podcast and why each of these podcasts scratch that itch for me. And, if you work a job that allows you to wear headphones, whether it's manual labor, I'm working using my hands all day, having AirPods in, I'm allowed to do that so I can just digest as much as possible. Maybe you work an office job where you're inputting on a computer and you're allowed to, just put your phone on it and listen to these podcasts. You get in trouble watching YouTube on the clock, but maybe you're allowed to listen to stuff. Maybe you listen to audiobooks and that's cool, but I found myself at work getting sick of listening to the same music I've heard hundreds of thousands of times. So there are some movie podcasts I like to listen to, but since I've, started really being focused on making content and I love comic books, I found these content creators to be just awesome. And I'll tell you why and where you can find them and when their shows drop. So these are in no particular order. I'm not ranking them in the order that I like them or think they're the best. I'm just giving them to you, and I hope you guys really explore these channels because they're really great folks. A lot of them I know personally. Some I'd like to know better than others, but maybe that'll happen in the future. Maybe I can have them on my channel and talk about it. That'd be cool. Featured podcast shows. I like it. Okay. First podcast I want to talk about is the Comic Room Podcast. This is hosted by Joshua, aka Spro, and his father-in-law, aka Mr. Lombox. You can find them both on Instagram, and I'll link all the socials to these folks in the description below. I'll tell you if they have a YouTube channel, which they do stream on Spro's YouTube channel. So you can check them out there. So you can watch them if you'd like to, because they do have a segment where you might want to watch, or you can listen to their podcast. So Spro and his father-in-law, like there's so many people out there that would like to have this relationship with their father-in-law, and I'm one of them. Mine will never watch this video. Mine doesn't care about comics. He was more involved in baseball when he was a kid growing up, and I get that. Like, baseball were people's heroes. Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, all the greats. So he has a lot of autograph stuff, but he could care less about comics. I could sprout off about Groot's first appearance and he wouldn't care. So they've got a great dynamic. It's his father-in-law and his son-in-law, and how their show works is they start off with a show and tell. So they show a book that maybe they procured recently or they've had in their collection, and they want to talk about it. They want to talk about why they have it in their collection, why it's important to them, the artists, the writers, where they got it. Maybe they got it for a deal. They do a little specking. They like to figure if a comic might be worth more in the future, which is cool. It's a fun thing to do, and they do a very good job of doing that show and tell. Like they explain the book. That's where the YouTube portion would come in great. But I'm listening to the podcast, I can still hear it, and then I can go check out their YouTube channel later if I want to see that book. So they do a show and tell, then they go into news from the week. So they cover all sorts of comic related news, whether it's movies or video games or shows. So it's a really nice way to keep up on what's coming out. They have some really good info from directors talking about scripts getting pushed back or release dates. So it's a very fun and easy way for me to keep up on what's going on. I don't have time to track down this all and look it on the internet and research it. So they do the research for you. And then, the meat of their show is, whatever topic they come up to talk about at the end of towards the end of the podcast. So that could be about a movie that just came out that they saw and their thoughts on it. It could be about the market, the current market conditions. It could be about graded books. It could be about raw books. Very interesting topics they come up with, and I just really like their back and forth. Their episodes drop every Monday morning. They usually come on my bone about 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Eastern time. They're in California. So I typically start with that podcast or another one I'll mention in the morning. And it eats up about an hour and a half of my day usually. And I get to listen to them talk about comics. But they have a great dynamic. They go to cons. They do pickups. Spro has recently transitioned into becoming a seller as well. So him and Bob, aka Mr. Longbox, talk about going on trips and taking 2-hour one-way trips and coming up with absolutely nothing. Really cool, insightful part of the hobby that I don't get to see, but I get to live vicariously through them. So Comic Room Podcast, definitely check out. They are available on YouTube. They are available on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Check out their Instagram pages in the description below as well. The next podcast is a really fun one too, and one of the hosts is a friend of mine. I consider him a good friend. This is Comically Comics podcast. So this is hosted by fellow YouTuber 22 Comics and his co-host Jeremy and Richard. Very great dynamic from the three of them. Sometimes they mesh on their thoughts. Two of them will mesh and one won't agree, or all of them will agree, or none will agree. It's very cool to see that triple dynamic. And again, they're set up, they talk about news, what's going on in movies. They are a spoiler cast and podcast, so they're talking books, movies, video games, music, TV, and they will spoil the hell out of it. Just forewarning. So yeah, 22 does a great job. They talk about anything in the news as well, and a lot of the times they might cover stuff in the news that Comically Comics hasn't covered, and vice versa. So that's really good too. And then the meat of their episode is what they're talking about that week, whether it's certain episodes of TV shows that are out, movies, video games, books, trade paperbacks. It covers a wide array of stuff, and they have just a really good dynamic between the three of them. A lot of these shows are a two-person host, single host, or this is the only three-person show, and they do a really good job at it. They make you laugh. They make you feel like you're there talking with them. They do not broadcast on YouTube. However, you can find them in Apple and Spotify, and they do drop every Monday morning too. They come out about the same time as the Comic Room podcast, so I'm always whatever one pops up first, I'll listen to, and I go right to the other one. Before you know it, half my day is eaten up at work, and I've learned a ton about comics or movies or what's going on. So check out 22 Comics YouTube channel, and you can see all his great content, but definitely go check out Comically Comics podcast. They're wonderful. The next podcast I learned about relatively recently thanks to one of my viewers, Richard Westfall. He had suggested I invite them on the Big Five Live, and I did, and they're wonderful, and they're actually hyper close to me. They're from Syracuse, and that is the Multiverse Report. This is hosted by Mike and Steve, and two really great guys. They've got the voice for this. They've got a great presence on the mic and behind the camera, because they are available on YouTube as well. They go through news, they go through all things nerdy. I just recently listened to their June 30th episode, and they were kind of touching not only on nerd related stuff, but also some James Bond news that was coming out. So that's still nerdy to me, and people can be hyper fixated on Bond stuff. I feel like a lot of nerds watch Bond as a kid. So they do a great job of they love Star Wars. They do a great job of talking about, what comics they're reading, what artists they like, stuff like that. They cover the whole gambit of nerdverse stuff, if you will. They are on YouTube. They stream every Sunday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then typically I find their episode on Monday too. So Monday's a big podcast day for me. If I can't get it all through Monday, it bleeds into Tuesday. Mike is also a comic book creator. He just released and fully funded his Kickstarter for I Brought a Gorilla to a Gunfight. I backed it. I'm really excited to get that. Just two really great dudes. I saw them at Free Comic Book Day. I got to meet Mike, and I definitely want to set something up where I go up and meet him soon. Obviously, it's always, time. It's the summertime. Everyone's schedules are booked. But great guys, the Multiverse Report. If you are up Sunday, maybe you don't have to work Monday and you want to check out their YouTube channel, you can go do that, but you can also find them wherever you stream your podcasts. The next gentleman I've met through a chain of people, and we finally got to connect. Really formally introduced through Ryan, the Colossus Collector, because he had known about him. But this podcast is Nerdy Musings Podcast, hosted by a wonderful gentleman named James. He lives out on the West Coast. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor, and he is absolutely huge guy. You wouldn't, nerds come in all shapes and sizes and interests. And I'll tell you what, he, for hosting the podcast by himself, does an amazing job of connecting with who he's interviewing, whether it's about nostalgia, whether it's about current comics, current artists, current writers, and he does a lot of interviews with current comic artists and writers. He is an artist himself. He's a fantastic artist. He drew this amazing Colossus piece for Ryan, the Colossus Collector. I was on his show a couple months ago, and like, we grew up in the same era, and we were clicking on the same movies and everything. Like, it is not hard for people within our nerd demographic to really click on a lot of the same stuff, especially if you grew up in the 80s and 90s. So James has a really great way of interviewing his people, asking them questions that opens up a conversation that you really will learn a lot about comics, comic creations, collectors he has on. Very interesting, very great guy, very soothing voice. He's a big teddy bear like all of us big guys. He does have a YouTube channel. You can watch his shows on his YouTube channel. His episodes drop at 6 a.m. Pacific time, so typically 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can watch his YouTube or you can stream his podcast. Again, I work all day doing manual labor, so it's nice for me to have my AirPods in and just listen. Again, if they have something that they're showing off, I can always go to their YouTube channels later and check out what they're showing. But James is a wonderful guy. Go check out Nerdy Musings Podcast ASAP. And the last podcast I want to talk about are a couple of good friends of mine. I say they're a podcast, but they don't officially release on any kind of streaming services like Spotify or Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcasts. They are all YouTube. However, they're doing interview styles with everyone they have on, and it typically doesn't involve them showing anything. It's a lot about, they start with the origin story of the person they came on, how they got into comics, how they got into art, how they got into reading these comics. And then from there, it just kind of snowballs on what that person's about. They've interviewed some wonderful creators, some wonderful artists, people who deal in original art, if that's your thing. So they drop their episodes on Mondays typically, but sometimes on Wednesdays they got into doing like live stream debates, and they'll invite other people on. So they had myself on, they had Spro's Comics and Mr. Longbox on, and they'll have people on and like bring up a topic and ask you to debate whether you're for or against it, think it's right, think it's wrong, whatever. But these guys are one of the most underrated channels. All these guys are very underrated, like Absolute Game of Nerds, Nerdy Musings, Multiverse Report, Comic Room Podcast, Comically Comics. All these guys I'm talking about are seriously underrated creators with a vast wealth of knowledge, hosting people with a vast wealth of knowledge. So like, I'm serious, please go check these guys out. So the Absolute Game of Nerds is hosted by Rohan and JP, and they do a wonderful job of going back and forth, asking the questions to the people they're interviewing, and they find out a lot of interesting details about stuff that, you might never know about artists or writers or, of original art Rohan's really into. It's very interesting. I'm gonna get killed by bugs tonight, but that's okay for you guys. Yeah, so Absolute Game of Nerds podcast is just wonderful. I say they're a podcast, I classify them that because I can just put my phone in my pocket with them running or on my surface where I'm working, and I can just listen to them talk. And again, if something is shown that's of importance, I can always go and check them out on YouTube. So definitely sub up Absolute Game of Nerds podcast. So yeah, a quick video. I just wanted to do something a little different, a little outside the box. I don't really see any content creators talking about podcasts they like, and let's face it, we all like learning about comics or anything to do with comics. So I just thought it'd be fun for me to throw out some to you. Even if you only like 1 out of the 5, then hey, you got something to listen to every week. Hopefully you find them all as interesting as I do. All their descriptions for their channels and their socials are in the description, so please go check them out. Today is Friday. Fantastic Four releases tonight. Gosh, I hope it's good. I am going tomorrow. I got a pretty special weekend planned. I'm going to have a team up of my own, if you will. So stay tuned for that next week. But I hope you guys go get to see the movie. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I hope it's as beautiful as it is out right now where you are. And until next time, keep reading those comics.